Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Super Tees video. Patch 11.2 is about to launch. Season 3 begins a week after, and in today's video, I wanted to highlight some of the most exciting changes for the classes in 11.2 because we all need to make a really big decision with this one. Which class are we going to main? Which ones are looking strong? Which ones could potentially be looking frail or weak moving into the future? And which ones just look fun and who cares about the strength, right? Because some of the specializations are getting some cool effects that I'm going to check out regardless of how strong or weak I actually think that they may end up being, and that's where the real value of today's video is going to be. Now for Death Knight, they're giving you guys quite an overhaul. They completely removed Abomination's Limb. This was in an attempt in PvE to make Death Grip more valuable. Abomination's Limb was already kind of falling out of style in PvP situations anyways, but this means that maybe you're going to have a lot more niche usages, which means you're probably going to be getting a guaranteed raid spot when it comes to the new raid Manaforge Omega. Secondarily, they are reworking Anti-Magic Zone to be a raid cooldown again, which is going to be a flat damage reduction, and it doesn't have a cap on how much damage it absorbs. So it's going to be a lot more valuable in PvP situations as a result of this, because in a lot of cases you can actually just shatter through an Anti-Magic Zone. You're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be just providing a flat 15% magic damage reduction. So definitely aiding you when it comes to raiding. And Death Knight did receive quite a significant rework. And we basically saw week to week of changes for Death Knight, which is just like gig above, gig above, gig above. And then, oh, everything got nerfed, everything got nerfed, everything got nerfed and pulled back. So as far as strength, it's very tough to say where it's going to land. I will say that the rework feels like it's more focused around PvE. And giving you kind of extra cleave damage. And since the recent nerfs to Death Coil directly, that PvP might be on the weaker side, at least for Unholy. I think Frost is already strong in the current patch when it comes to PvP, and it's probably going to be about the same, maybe slightly better than it was. So if you're Frost Death Knight, I think you're going to be riding all right in most content. Maybe in PvE, you might get giga nerfed. We have to wait and see with this one, right? As far as strength and weaknesses, Death Knight always gets kind of gig above, giga nerfed. But if I'm being honest, with the reworks towards Death Knight in a PvP situation, I feel like you're just going to end up playing the same. You know, I don't think your gameplay is going to be dramatically shifted. I think it's in PvE where you get new cleave abilities and new animations that are going to feel impactful. I think in those avenues, you're going to notice it. Whereas in PvP, your class is probably going to end up just feeling about the same, maybe a tiny or a smidge better. Is my expectation for it. So if I'm being honest, even despite all of this stuff, all of these new talents, I guess to be fair, the empowered rune weapon change may feel significant for Frost Death Knight. Giving it 2 charges, lower cooldown, gives you more goes. I will say that, yeah, the empowered rune weapon change, I think is likely going to change, integral gameplay, at least when it comes to PvP. But I'll change like the Breath of Cinder goes to charge. Unfortunately, it's just like kind of just random pad AoE. It's probably not going to be noticed as much, but the empowered rune weapon is definitely something I think that would be worth checking out, at least when it comes to Frost Death Knight. And you can see they got a bunch of changes, right? Like all these damage increasing effects, a bunch of new talents, a bunch of new animations. So give it a go if you want. My experience just on the PTR was that it plays pretty much the same. But I think the changes to empowered rune weapon definitely will have some impact. We do see some buffs here and changes to pets and diseases for Unholy. So they're trying to increase the builds there. Unfortunately, there's not enough PvP modifiers to really, I think, enable those builds enough when it comes to PvP. But there are some flat increases moving forward from the patch for Unholy. So likely, again, landing about the same, maybe a better position. I really wish that you could try some different builds, but my expectation is probably it's going to be the same build as it was before. For Demon Hunter, we see absolutely no changes. So probably just expect to be exactly where you were before. For Druid, we're seeing an increase to Maime's cooldown from 20 to 30 seconds, which is, it seems like a PvE focus change, but I didn't realize Maime was that powerful in PvE. But you're not going to be getting your stuns as frequently on Druid here. I think this is going to be affecting Resto most of all. Now we do see some buffs to Wildstalker, some kind of tuning adjustments here. I'm a bit concerned about Resto Druid. Mostly just because it's losing a very powerful set bonus, and then it's not going to be compensated until the new set bonus comes out a few weeks later. So Resto Druid might want to be a bit wary. Balanced Druid is just 8% damage increase, so that's going to compensate for losing your set bonus. So you'll probably just end up feeling about the same. Feral Druid, on the other hand, I think is going to be Very good with this 8% damage increase. This looks really good. It's mostly just number tuning, so it's from a power standpoint, looks like it's going to be good. From a fun standpoint, exploration standpoint, it's pretty much exactly the same as it was. Tanks are getting 8% and 12% damage buffs across the board, and tanks are already out damaging me on my 2400 solo shuffle challenges throughout the season. So, yeah, don't sleep on the tanks, because the tanks could definitely be very strong here. Now, they're trying to increase raid cooldowns outside of raid environments, so I'm curious to see how that works out. Resto Druid is one of those with Tranquility and Efflorescence. It could be very effective now in arena situations, but again, you're probably getting about the same gameplay. Flame Shaper, they spent a lot of time working on Flame Shaper for Evoker and trying to make it more competitively viable, and you can see that with all the increases that they've done to a bunch of effects for it. I don't know how much I'm interested in trying it. I don't know if I'm just like, I just don't care that much about the hero talents for Evoker. I don't know if anyone's is that way. I guess it's because it's like one of my main alts. But if you're an Evoker main, you may want to give Flame Shaper a go. There's definitely is something new to explore. As far as actual output, we don't know 100% for certain. Devastation saw a little bit of an increase. Devastation is getting some really cool set bonuses. Definitely very excited to try out Devastation when it comes to this next patch. Augmentation is just receiving some flat number increases. Devastation is also increasing some flat number increases, so you're looking to feel better there. And Preservation is looking like it could take over as maybe the number one healer with some of the changes that are coming through for it. So keep your eyes on Preservation. And with Flame Shaper, the gameplay could change. If Flame Shaper doesn't end up rolling through, then maybe not. But we'll have to wait and see with this one. Preservation still, it's definitely one that's on the higher end of my radar, at least for classes to check out. Now, Hunter, on the other hand, though, I do really want to check out. Not so much Marksman. We just see a couple of nerfs and redistribution of power to their hero talent trees. But Beast Mastery, they're making Dire Beast passive. And I'm very curious to see what that does for it. That's the main thing for Beastmaster is I think you're just getting a tiny bit more damage in some avenues, a little bit less damage in other avenues between Marksman and BM. But with Dire Beast being passive, I feel like the class literally just plays itself. So if you're a done dad, you want done dad class, Beastmastery is definitely the spec you got to go for. Pack Leader is seen a significant rework as well, an increase in power. So Survival Hunter is going to benefit significantly from this. And I'm actually very excited to try it. I think Survival might be the first spec that I try. It's first or second spec that I try is going to be Survival, whereas Marksman and BM is just kind of them shifting damage around, not a lot of gameplay changes, but mostly the Wildfire Bomb initial damage increase. Yeah, 50%. This thing already hits really hard. Survival Hunter is going to be the first or second thing I try, just because I didn't get to complete the challenge last season. So we're going to start with the ones that I didn't complete, which is Outlaw and Survival. I've finished every other spec in one season. We're going to start with this one. It looks like it could be crazy good, especially with buffs to this. And it's got a much different playstyle than the last time that I played it. Obviously, if you've been playing since the last patch, might be very similar, but it's been a while since you played it. I think Survival does play significantly different with all the changes throughout the War Within. Mage, honestly, could be very weak. The removal of Time Anomaly is a big one. Well, they're compensating you, giving you a little bit more main stat. You're losing a massive haste increase by losing Time Anomaly here with this proc. So Mage could end up being in a rough spot, and we don't often see Mage end up in a rough spot. We saw them trying to rebalance the hero talent trees again. Just seems like it always ends up being one is better than the other, and I do think that we saw Fire Mage kind of outperforming in PvE, so Fire Mage is kind of on the radar for nerfs. We see a lot of buffs towards Arcane Blast, but it's, again, not really your main ability here. But Barrage damage bonus increased by 40%. So these Arcane could get some really big damage out here, and Arcane has been my number one recommended most fun spec in the game, although not for beginners. If you're an advanced player, I think you really will enjoy Arcane. It's a very fun time. If you're a beginner, you may want to avoid it. I'm curious to see how Fire plays out with all the nerfs. We see buffs here to Pyroblast and Flame Strike ultimately throughout all of the changes that came through for it, but they're targeting Ignite and Mastery quite heavily. So maybe that means it'll end up being good in PvP. Because Ignite's a little bit more focused towards AoE, and obviously Pyroblast is a little more focused towards single target. So I'm curious to see if this actually does end up meaning that Fire ends up being more viable in PvP situations. Frost Mages, you got some very cool buffs here coming to your Mastery, so maybe you see a different stat allocation, increasing the damage bonus of your Mastery Icicles, which means your Icicles could be hitting radically hard. I don't know how that affects Glacial Spike. If Glacial Spike is scaled off of the Mastery of your Icicles, maybe you could get some wild Glacial Spike crits possibly as a result of that. Frost Mage main, let me know, because I haven't played Glacial Spike in a really long time. I've just been an instant Iceland spammer for quite a while here, but definitely interested to check those out. For Monk, Brewmaster is getting a significant amount of buffs. It's underperforming, so if you're a tank player, you may want to try and give it a go. I don't know if it's enough to make it the most dominant tank, but it's definitely getting a lot of attention. Mistweaver is also getting quite a lot of attention as well, and could be a lot more viable as a result. I think the Shaylin's gift healing is definitely a lot more helpful, but they are kind of forcing you into the wind kick build, and I just finished playing Mistweaver to 2400 as my most recent one completed, but I was playing the kick build, so basically my build's getting better is the name of the game here, but not really any significant changes outside of that. Windwalker's getting a bit stronger in PvE, but not in PvP, with basically no other changes there for you. Herald of the Sun is getting a lot of attention on Holy Paladin, and I'm a Herald of the Sun stan. I don't want to play the Melee Wings Judgment stuff, so I'm very happy about the changes coming through for Herald of the Sun. Definitely something I'm going to be playing on my Holy Paladin. I think it's a lot more straightforward, although Paladins are getting nerfed in other ways in PvP. They're going to be nerfing your mana regen because Divine Plea was bugged and give you too much mana, and they're nerfing the Hallowed Ground Freedom and Sprint talent. So going to be a little bit of a weird trade-off there, getting more throughput, but less mana efficient, less utility. Retribution Paladin, for some reason, is getting buffs. It's getting some damage increases that you'll see here by about 12% and a bunch of other things. So like if you're just somebody who wants to be OP and smack people around, you just basically can't go wrong with Ret. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just know Ret is really popular. So if they make it bad or complicated or hard or not an automatic free win, then a lot of people are going to be mad, and they don't want that. They want to keep people happy. So they just giga buff and make it really easy and OP. I don't know. Somebody help me understand the logic here, but you're basically just getting disgustingly large amounts of buffs. Disgustingly large amounts of buffs for Ret Paladin. For Disc, originally I thought it was getting buffed, but I was actually incorrect in this assessment. It's actually getting its mana costs increased on a significant portion of its healing output, right? Shield and Radiance are some of your main heals. The trade-off is that Ultimate Penitence is going to hit a bit harder and heal a little bit more, which could be kind of fun. But if you're running out of mana instantly, it's not going to be that great. So I do actually have concerns for Discipline Priest with this kind of final iteration of patch notes. I have some significant concerns for it. Holy Priest, though, on the other hand, is getting mana cost reductions in a lot of abilities related to its offense, but nothing really major, I think. I guess actually the bigger impact is this Surge of Light is not going to make your spells free, which is weird to me because I feel like Holy and Disc were the healers that ran out of mana relative to the other ones most of the time, and you're going to run out faster. So some concerns here when it comes to healing. Now, Shadow Priest is getting Giga reworked again. I don't know how you guys keep getting these Giga reworks, but a lot more focus around Void Volley as your way to apply dots instantly. You're losing the ability to cast Vampiric Touch and instantly dot another target. I can't remember the name of the talent for that one, but that's gone. But Void Volley is a lower cooldown. It's likely going to hit a little bit harder as well, so you get more ways to kind of AoE instant dot. And they're buffing a lot of your old god talents. So I am curious to see how it plays out, because there's a lot to explore here. So if you're excited about Shadow Priest, I think you definitely should still be excited for it, and try out basically a whole bunch of different builds, which is the nice part about the patch, is that other than Ret Paladin, I can't really lock in on 100% this is the best thing to go for. So this kind of pre-patch week, which I'm going to be live streaming, is going to be all about exploring that, figuring that out, and trying to zone in on the strongest options. But yeah, lower cooldown Void Torrent, lower cooldown on Void Volley, or I've spaced out on the name of it there, because they changed the name of Void Volley to some other talent, but Shadow Crash, your ability to get your instant dots there. So definitely excited to try that. Rogue, at the last second, surprisingly got some buffs. I wasn't expecting it. So Subtlety, you're probably going to be about the same, is my expectation. They also fixed the single button rotation assistant. I complained about this, where you couldn't put Wound Poison on. You can put Wound Poison on. So if you want to do the single button rotation, I managed to get 1950 with it, and then I got stuck there because the reduced global cooldown was like, you can't use your stuns effectively once you're at a certain rating threshold, and then I got 2400 after turning it off. But it was pretty good for getting to 1950 with no experience on it. So I'm glad that they're doing some kind of PvE iterations of the single button rotation. Maybe I should get more feedback on other specs, because there's a few specs that just don't work at all in PvP, and it's actually a really good way of getting in on a class you've never played, or if you never played the game in general. It's actually just a really good way to just kind of get in and press buttons and start having some fun with the game without having to bog yourself down too much with all of the keybinds. And that's my honest opinion of it, as I actually think the single button assistant is actually good for the game because it gets you in the door, but doesn't get you to the top level. But the buffs to Rogue, I'm very excited to try. So Assassination, Giga buffs. Giga buff. Sound like Giggity. I sound like the guy from Quagmire. I think that's his name. Yeah, Giga buffs. So Assassination and Ret. Ooh, you guys are looking toasty. Definitely going to give this a go, but I'm probably going to give Outlaw a go first. It's getting also 13% damage buff, and I want to try Killing Spree, and I'm going to be giving a lot of feedback on Outlaw because I feel like Outlaw needs a lot of help right now. So maybe I'll do Unholy and Outlaw, try and focus a lot of feedback videos around these if they end up being bad, because like you guys were, these specs were so bad last season as far as performance. Like, I'm really hoping you guys don't end up being that bad ever again here, because my goal is I want every spec to feel really good and awesome, so everybody's logging in and having fun. I'm not trying to be biased towards the spec just because I dislike it. Obviously, as a boomkin, Unholy DK is actually very difficult to deal with, but I just want every spec to be really fun. And this new Killing Spree thing, I'm curious to see how it plays out. They didn't ultimately make a PP talent for it, so I have a feeling you're just going to get CC'd on it, or it's going to do no damage at all. That's my expectation, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to give it a go regardless. And Salty Rogue's probably just in the same spot, like I said. Farseer is getting a little bit of buffs, but it's more focused around AoE. Although I do guess the Elemental Reverb now increases Lava Burst damage by 20%. So maybe Farseer could be really good, actually. Wait, what? I don't remember reading that in previous iterations of these changes. Okay, that could definitely be really good. The buffs for Ellie are not going to be applied in PvP, so you probably end up about the same, maybe slightly better upon release. Now, I think for enhancement, you're going to have fun, because Tempest, I think, is going to auto-shoot now with Thorum's Invocation. So when you transform and you get Maximum Maelstrom, it'll automatically shoot Tempest. I think Enhance could be really fun with that. It's mostly just going to be a cheesy one-shot, but you have a lot of self-healing and a cheesy one-shot, you're probably going to be pretty strong. So Enhancement, I'm probably going to give a go as well at some point. Resto, you're just kind of getting a little Healing Tide buff. It's better than nothing. Resto Shaman definitely struggles, especially at dealing with kind of like high burst damage situations. So this should hopefully alleviate some of that issues there. Some weird changes where Corruption is now instant, or deals instant damage on application, so a little bit of a corruption buff there, but probably nothing really major. Diabolist, seeing a lot of buffs, so maybe giving a Diabolist run here as Destruction or Demonology could be a lot of fun to try and see what you can get done with it. Demonology is just looks like it's getting nerfed on a lot of kind of just like pad AoE damage, nothing major. And Affliction, I think they wanted to go through with something. One of these buffs they decided to go through, but maybe they decided to tailor it back, because it looks like they did. They increased UA damage by 68%. Oh my god, dude, what? But that's not in PvP. So they're Giga buffing Warlocks in PvE. You're not really going to be receiving these in PvP, though, it looks like, at this current time. I do know that Fell Lord for Demonology, though, is going to be a lot more effective, and you can see Demonology is getting it. Demonology buffs are actually going through. Now, it is, in a lot of the cases, abilities like Shadow Bolt, which is not major. You'd probably want Demon Bolt, really, to be kind of feeling it, but you're getting cooldown reduction, easier summon demons, more baseline talents. I think you're getting an opening hero PP talent. Demonology looks really good. Affliction, you probably just end up being the same. Not really getting too much of a helping hand with the patch, but I still have a lot of fun playing it even regardless of that. Destruction, getting buffs for PvE, but not in PvP, sadly, if you're PvP main. Warriors are getting a reduced global cooldown on Hamstring, if you didn't know. So going down to 0.75 seconds from 1.5, which going to help you keep up the Hamstring, but for all you Warriors in Shuffle that don't have a keybound anyways, you're probably not going to notice the change. But nice little change there. And we are seeing damage increases to the Warrior specs, which is surprising, because, you know, something like Arms already was kind of smashing, so 5% and then 15% Bladestorm. And for Fury, which I think is a little bit more acceptable for buffs, because Fury was I think a tad bit underperforming. Arms could definitely catch up with it with a change like this, but since they're almost equally being buffed, it's probably not going to be of major consequence to either of them. But Warriors, Assassination Rogues, Ret Paladins, those guys look like really good goes. And Hunters, I think Hunters as well look like they're going to be really powerful. Prot Warrior is getting a big talent update, and I'm actually thinking Prot Warrior could be really OP, especially if you want to be like a world PvP player. It hits really hard. I don't know if it's strong enough to like completely take over and be the best spec for Warrior, but it's entirely possible. I would be curious to kind of try it out there, because like a lot of the tank specs are getting massive increases, and they're increasing your viability in Battleground Blitz. So this might be a good patch to try out a tank in Battleground Blitz or something like that if you wanted to give it a go. Nullifying Shroud's the biggest kind of main PvP change, where you're going to go immune to CC for 4 seconds after you use it. It is more of a rotational ability, so it's going to be much more difficult to kind of like time this to immune CC while still remaining effective to heal, unlike a Priest Fade, which is completely unrelated to their healing rotation to avoid CC. But when you fly in, you're not going to immediately get stunned and swap to. You're going to get a couple of seconds to actually do something when you have to play close, which is nice because its limited range has definitely been an issue for it. And like I said earlier, Paladin's losing a lot of power from these PvP talents, and Master Summoners being changed. And I guess Warlock did get a little bit of help. You got a PP change here. This is the change I was remembering that wasn't up there, but it's down here. 35% more damage on Unstable Affliction. But that's basically the breakdown. Those are the specs I'm going to be trying. I'm giving Outlaw a go, regardless if it ends up being bad, because I want to relay some feedback. I'll probably give Unholy a go as well to try and relay some feedback to it. So you guys, hopefully it does something. We'll see if it does anything. They did iterate on the wound poison doesn't work on the 1-button rotation. So maybe if we provide some constructive feedback that's actually legitimate, that maybe we can make sure every spec is as viable as possible. And then I'll probably dance around between other things like the new Mastery and maybe a Glacial Spike build on Frost Mage or something like that. But that's my breakdown. Those are the things I'm most excited about. Thank you guys very much for watching the video, and I will see you guys in 11.2.